Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets Bling. I found it was at a, they call it an antique store, but there's just as much like really random resale items in this place as there are antiques. So it's a nice little smorgasbord of goodies, and I came across this beautiful table. It's basically a more modern version of this, a French butcher or pastry table. These are two examples of some beautiful, fine antiques. I didn't pay what you would expect to for something of this quality, and it's really beautiful, but I want to glam it up a bit. To me, it's a little plain, and I don't do plain, so let's glam up a pretty table. Let's do it. Step one is to build up the tabletop itself because I feel it's too low for where I'm going to put it. So I have taken some scrap wood from a desk that I purchased a long time ago and cut down a couple pieces to make it not only taller, but to make it wider and a little bit longer. Now I will disassemble so the original top can be screwed and glued to the two pieces of that old desk that I cut earlier. My inspiration is a French market awning. So if you could picture being way up in the air looking straight down in a marketplace at a French awning, that's the look I'm after. This is vintage lath. This is out of the walls of my home. And it is, if you're not familiar with lath, it is put in old homes as they build them and to apply plaster over to form the walls. So you've probably figured out we're going to make the tabletop out of lath. So first I have to get any nails, screws, or staples removed from the lath. My lath pieces have been cut, and I have decided that I want an edge around, an apron, shall we say, all the way around the perimeter of my French awning table. So I am going to create a little scallop all the way around using that lath. On the back side of each and every piece, I'm going to trace this little rounded item so it will create a scallop when I cut it with my scroll saw. I set my guide and I turn on my scroll saw and I begin the very laborious task of cutting 72 scallops for this apron for this table. This is the way that the table will be put together. The scallop edge going down the side and the longer piece on the tabletop itself. Lath is a very rough material, and I am taking what little rough edges I have and sanding them so that they are nice and smooth for my finished product. To lay out the design, we need to find all of our center points, and my stripe down the very center of the table has to be measured out first before we can continue. I will be using my pin nailer for this project. I'm not only pin nailing, but I'm wood gluing everything into place. I check for square, then I make sure my pieces meet, and then I pin nail. And I repeat the process over and over and over. And at this point, I am just applying my scallops all the way around the perimeter. This was very time consuming, but hopefully in the end you'll see that it was worth it. Hopefully. Now the hard part, the corner pieces, because once again, lath is not uniform, so they had to be cut in a way that they would fit in there just perfect. Now the top. I'm starting with that center piece. I am gluing it and pin nailing it into place. I have all my top pieces laid out, matched up with the scallops that were cut from the same piece. I am checking for square, and then I am going to wood glue and pin nail every one of these top pieces into place. Each piece of lath gets 6 pin nails. I want to make sure that this does not come undone. I want this to be a very sturdy piece, like it is one solid piece of wood. I work my way down all the way to the corners and then back down the other side. Now I'm addressing the base. Even though it's a beautiful metal piece, I want it to look more vintage. I want it to look like that gorgeous antique table I showed you earlier. So I wipe it down, and now I am going to just go over the entire thing with chalk paint. I am stippling my chalk paint, and it's a deep stipple. I want there to be little ridges, because when I put my top coat on, I want it to look like the metal itself is starting to oxidize and bubble up and rust underneath my paint. This is coat number 2, and I'm making sure that in places you can still see the bare metal. I don't want to see a lot of it, but I do want some of it to show through, because then when I put my top coat on, there'll be some variation. Like, this thing has been through history, through some time. She's done her time in the pastry shop. It's been completely chalk painted 2 times over, with a little bit of tiny itty bitty bit of bare metal showing through. Now let's wax it. I'm using an antique finishing wax to coat the entire metal base of my table. I've let the wax sit for a little bit, and then I come in with my rag and I rub it into all of those little tiny bumps and crevices that we created earlier with our chalk paint. Now it's time to fill the cracks. I'm using a natural colored wood filler because I need it to take not only paint but stain. And once again, this was very time consuming, and because of the nature of what lath is, it does not forgive. It wants to do what it wants to do, and you just have to make do if you're going to work with this medium. Keep in mind, lath was never meant to be seen. It's not a finished product. It's something that's in the walls, totally hidden. Once my wood filler is completely dry, I need to sand everything nice and smooth. Now I'm going to paint the tabletop itself, and this is a whitewash. It's technically an antique whitewash, and I am hitting everything. This lath is made of cedar, so there's kind of some red highlights that I really don't like. So this whitewashing technique is going to really tame down that kind of orangey red hue that definitely doesn't go with anything in my room. As we go, you can see how it is absorbing that white paint. And I may go over it a second time because I definitely, I don't want orange showing through. The scalloped apron of the table is being treated in the exact same fashion. It is getting that antique white wash all over. Now here's the fun part. I am using a Minwax wood finish, and it is a stain. It is a golden oak. So it's going to give me the warmer tones that I wanted instead of those redwood tones that I definitely did not want. I am staining every other piece of lath, every other stripe. Keep in mind, this is right over top of that antique white. So it is absorbing, but not as dark as it would without that white. And I am creating stripes, once again, to mimic a French awning. I am trying to be very careful because I do not want my stain to bleed into what is the whitewash stripe. As I go, you can see the pattern of the stripe forming. And once I'm done with this stain coat, I will assemble my table. My table's done. my table's done, and really happy with the way she turned out, and I want to share the outcome with you. Let's take a look. Do you remember what this table looked like at the beginning? It was attractive, a little plain, and very solid. And the goal was to transform it, to make the top resemble a French market awning, and to have the table in general to look as close as possible to an antique French pastry table. You can see here the design, and it very much mimics an overhead view of a French market awning. Here you get a good look at that aged metal. She really looks like she's been through some history. And all those scallops, oh my goodness, all those scallops. It was worth it. And the corners that give you the illusion of an angled awning. I think I'm even going to coat it in butcher block sealer so that I can use it as a charcuterie board. And we all know how much I love charcuterie boards. This is her permanent location in my dining room, right under my beautiful sconce. Matches pretty good, don't you think? I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. Share it with your family and friends. Don't forget to support the channel by subscribing. For this time, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.